One, two, three, four. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be a great show tonight. Worlds within worlds with my great co-host, Trina Phoenix, and our special guest tonight, Ryan Serio. Thank you for coming.
Hey, everyone.
Now, tonight we're going to be talking about the Kabbala, as we have been all week. We're going to learn a little bit about that, and Ryan's going to explain as much as he can about all the other stuff underneath. And Trina and me, we're going to be enthralled and ask lots of questions because this is so interesting as we have started embark on this journey this week. If you haven't caught those episodes, go back and check them out. They were really good, just to get you all up to speed on what everything was about. Yeah, Ryan, really I'll turn it over to you a little bit. You maybe can explain this Kabbala stuff, maybe in your own words a little bit, and how this relates to what we're going to talk about.
All right. Yeah. Before we get into the really deep stuff, it's good to have an introduction, what Kabbala is, and just like a brief history. So Kabbala is a system that started in the Middle Ages, like in the 12th and 13th centuries originally. And it was a newly developed and complete system based on information, esoteric information from several sources, most prominently the Zohar, which was an early text from about 2,000 years ago, Jewish esoteric text that had a lot of information. And from there were a lot of interpretations, and that's what led to the Kabbala. And the Kabbala itself is a system for penetrating the different spheres of creation. So this is something that has been taught for centuries, but it wasn't until about like the 12th century where they really developed this full organized, developed system, at least like that we know of it today. So the inspiration originally came from the original Jewish text, the Merkava information and the Hekalat information, which was also Jewish, about going within and using the chariots, the vehicles of the soul, which they call the chariots, to descend to the throne, basically to go within yourself to find the throne of God. So that's what the Merkava information was, and the Hekalat literature. And before that, you had the information from the Phoenicians, the Syrians, the Assyrians. They had their own tree of life. So much of that is lost by now, but at least the Greek Platonists credited them with a lot of the foundational work as well, particularly in the region of Syria. And that gets us to Hermeticism too, because what we have now is kind of a mix between the original Jewish system of Kabbala and Kabbala now, which is mainly practiced not only by Jews, but also by Hermeticists, and even Christians too practice Kabbala. So a little background of the Hermeticists. And so Robert has been talking about them all week as far as some of the literature by Franz Barden from the 20th century. So Hermeticism goes back to ancient times as well. And there was a lot of information also around 2,000 years ago. So the Hermeticists basically were interested in just a total transformation of consciousness. So nothing less than that. So this is where this is where Hermeticism and the Jewish Kabbalistic system really end up like coming together, because during the time of the Enlightenment period, like the late 1700s, that's when you start seeing Kabbala on a more widespread level. So it's not just esoteric Judaism. Now it's a level that we're seeing the Golden Dawn and some of the first initiatic orders cropping up and starting to teach Kabbala based on grades and orders, which was something that never happened in the original systems because it was more solitary. So now with the Hermetic influences, they started having these orders where more people could be initiated into these systems, and more people knew about it. But one problem with that is that it gets watered down a bit, and some crucial information does get lost over the years. But fortunately, this is an experiential system, and people could dive right into it. That's the whole point of it. That's why the Hermeticists were interested in it from the beginning. And this is why this stayed in such pristine level by the esoteric Jews that were escaping persecution. And this was also after the Dark Ages. So they had their own sect and they were escaping persecution in different areas like Spain, for example, going down into like Northern Africa and Northern Italy, and to expand their influence and teach other people, the Kabbala, the Gentiles. So it's something that really came together throughout, like over the course of 2,000 years. And that's basically the history of it. And if you have any questions, like we can talk about that and then get into the actual worlds within the Kabbala, the spheres, and also the spheres within Hermeticism, both then and now.
Well, as I've been reading, a lot of this had to go like underground and be kept secret because of the church teachings and their takeover and stuff like that. So these certain teachings it's just not something you're gonna go out and say, I'm going to pick up the first book and page through it. Only as of recently
there was a
we
lot of
can.
persecution.
Yes.
Not just the church, but also this was also when after Islam was founded. So there's persecution from both sides, basically. So there was some openness, like it's like it was today. There's fundamentalists today, there were fundamentalists then. Fundamentalists were a lot more different then and a lot more dangerous, but there were actually some people that were open to it too. Like there were Christian Kabbalists at the time, and there were like Sufi Muslims that were more open to these teachings as well. So they were able to teach some of these people that were more open-minded, but at the same time, they had to be really cognizant of not going too far in their own, like out of their own system, because they didn't want to upset the people in charge, basically. But there was a lot of interest in Kabbala during this time too, from the open-minded people of the time, from not just Judaism, but also from the other major religions as well, the more esoteric forms of them. And we do see Christian Kabbala cropping up a little bit later on as well during the Enlightenment period, maybe like toward the end of the Renaissance too. But it was, at this time, it was completely Jewish, and it was definitely more underground, and they stayed like within their own sects early on, and then they branched out because there was a lot of problems historically, or I think where they were persecuted in certain areas, had to move from one area to another area. So they had a rich history that started in Spain, where they first developed a lot of these Kabbalistic ideas. Cordovero was one of the first really famous Kabbalists before Luria, who was the one that developed the Kabbalistic system that we know today, the Lurianic Kabbala. So Cordovero was a Spanish Kabbalist, and this was before there was persecution in Spain that drove them down into like North Africa, Italy, and places more south.
Wow. Very good. Very
so
good.
definitely a rich history.
So, Trina, what do you have on this?
Well, multi-dimensional worlds. I want to hear Ryan talk about the circles within the circles and the worlds within the worlds, because I thought that's kind of where I wanted to go. So I think we should continue with his Kabbala instruction on that. So yeah, roll with it, Ryan. I'd love to hear that part.
Okay. Yeah. So now we're getting into the meat of it. So in Kabbala, there are spheres. So there are 10 main spheres. So it starts at Keter. So Keter is the highest level. That's like the first level of creation, and it goes down to Malkut. Malkut is basically the physical world, but it's a little bit beyond that. It's the kingdom and also the kingship, mastery over the physical world. And in between 1 and 10, there's several different spheres as well. It's called the tree of life. So you start at Keter, and then you go to the right and downward, there is Hokmah. So Hokmah is the second. This is basically where the light really forms and you have wisdom. So this is the pillar of mercy down below Hokmah. This is considered the right-hand path, or the masculine path. And then from Hokmah, you go to the third sphere, which is Binah. and Binah is
Oh,
basically that's the
okay,
original.
Ryan, can I put this up on screen for us so we
Oh
got a
yeah,
better
go ahead.
Okay. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just want to see if you'd want me to share that, what you're talking about.
Yeah, the visual would be really good for people here.
Okay, here we
Yeah, so
go.
there you go. So you start in Kater. So one thing that I want to mention right off the bat, because a lot of people really don't know this, and I read it about like a couple of weeks ago. Kater, so this is like the first sphere of creation. So above Kater, you see the Ein Sof Or, which is the actual third level of creation, but that is basically beyond the tree of life, like beyond what we can experience at this level. So there's Ein Sof or Hour, which is the original light, and then above that is the Ein Sof, the firmament, and the above that is absolute nothingness or Ein. So there's 3 levels above the 10 spheres of the tree of life. So you start at Kater, and one thing that the original Spanish Kabbalists taught was that Kater originated with the first divine feminine entity that had her hand, like her part of her was above Kater into the Ein Sof Or, and then it extended into Kater and then created the divine masculine within Kater too. So it was like the Etz Partufim. You have the 2 and the 1, the masculine and the feminine, the divine feminine and the sacred masculine, the Etz Partufim in one in Kater. And then it divides in Chokmah. And that is the creation of wisdom. That is the pillar of mercy. So you see the right-hand path from Chokmah down to Hesed and then down to Netzach. That is the right-hand path of the pillar of mercy. That is the masculine path. And the third sphere, Binah, which is represented by the planet Saturn, that's why it's black, and it has a symbol for Saturn in it. That is the third sphere there. And then from there you get thought, first of all. So this is the origination of thought. This is separation. And this is the left-hand path, the path of power, the path of severity. And Geburah is the sphere of severity. And you see it's red there, represented by Mars, as opposed to Hesed on the other side, which is represented by Jupiter, the blue sphere there. And as you go down, you get to Hod, which is the astral plane ruled by Mercury. So there, like you see all these planes above the astral plane of Hod. So that gives you an indication too, that there's a lot of different worlds beneath what we know of. And right in the middle, you see the golden Tiferet, and that is the center, the heart center. That is the heart center of everything. So that is basically when things go really deep. And below that is Yesod, which is a reflection of Malkuth. So you had Malkuth being created directly from the emanation of Kater down. So that's why you have Kater is number 1, Malkuth is number 10, and they're in alignment. So in the body, you see this as the Sushumna canal, like connecting the head with the feet, basically like the top to the bottom. And Yesod is a reflection of Malkuth. And a good way to really think of that is that Yesod is basically the storehouse for everything in the material world. So you mentioned thought forms before. So when you think of a thought form, where does that go? That goes in the next higher realm, and that is Yesod. And that could influence the physical world as well in ways that we really don't understand. But that is closest to the physical world is a reflection of Malkuth. And from there, it's on the path. And then that is the lunar sphere. So we know how important the moon is to all esoteric treaties, how important it is to the physical world and the tides, the waters. So that is the watery realm right above the physical world, basically. And then you get to Tiferet, which is the center, that is the heart, that is the solar realm. And between Tiferet and Yesod, there is a veil that you need to cross if you're going through these tunnels, because there's the lower world, there's Netzach, which is the mental world, there is Hod, which is the astral plane. Yesod is kind of in between, it's like right above, like it's the world between the worlds. I think what Franz Barden likes to say is the zone girdling the earth, that's like kind of like what Yesod is. And so you have the connecting tunnel between the lunar sphere of Yesod and the solar sphere of Tiferet, protected by a veil. Now, once you can get past that veil, then all of these other worlds really start opening up. So the way that I traveled through the Kabbala, through the Kabbalic tree of life, there are actually several different ways, but the one that I picked was through the tunnels. And that is, so you could see the tunnels there. Each one is represented by a letter. So in the ones that are visible here, you could see 31 Shin, 29 Kof. These are all Hebrew letters. So each letter has its own vibration, and each vibration can reveal a tunnel that links two different worlds, two different spheres within the Kabbalistic tree of life. So there's a mystery within each letter. And this is something that you alluded to in your analogies program, when you were talking about Brighteon, and you were quoting him on some of his work. So that's some of the basic stuff that he was talking about, using these these letters physically to create different words that have like meaning beyond the mundane meanings that we all speak of. But you can actually enter into different realms of creation if you know the correspondences, and if you have a mind that's trained to block everything out and to enter into these worlds. So each tunnel, there's 22 tunnels between the 10 sephira, or in the back, the 10 klipoth, and there are 22 letters. So each letter represents a specific tunnel, and that was done intentionally. So that is purposeful. And beyond, so these tunnels, you originally start in the back. That's why, so more recently, they've been denoted as the tunnels of Set by the work of Kenneth Grant in the 20th century. And that is based on an ancient Kabbalistic teaching that the shells precede the fruit. So that's something that goes way back to Spanish Kabbala back in like the 13th century. So basically, when you think of a fruit that's growing, the husk is what forms first. And you need that to safeguard the fruit that grows inside. So you get like so in alchemy, you get like the dross matter first, but you actually need that because inside of that is growing something beautiful, something that turns into the fruit that gives you nourishment. So the way to go into these tunnels of Set is to go to the backside of the tree. So there's actually two levels. So there's like the 10 front spheres, which are the 10 spheres of manifestation. And then there's 10 back spheres in the backside of the tree, which are the 10 primordial spheres. So that is preceding the manifestation. And that is so with there, you need to go through the sentinels through each tunnel, and they give you their own initiations to see if you're worthy and if you can pass through these tunnels and gain access to this knowledge that the tunnels hold. Because each one, you really need to experience them. There's only so much that you can learn just from reading about them. You can really get an intellectual grasp of the correspondences and what they represent, but you really have to go through them to truly understand it on a level beyond the mental sphere, a level beyond Nexach, which is the sphere of the mind. So anytime we're talking in the physical world about words and writing and books, that brings you to Nexach, but it can't bring you further into Teferath and then beyond that. So you need to go beyond the mind into the heart, and then beyond the heart is even more deeper worlds where you can gain knowledge of even more things. So this is basically going through these worlds within worlds at a glance. So each world represents something that we can delve into, and it's beyond the mental world. It's beyond just our mind. It's beyond the astral world, which is Hod. So it's beyond both of these planes. So these are worlds like in the spirit realm, basically, that we can actually travel into and learn from its denizens there and go through initiations. So I'll pause here so we can talk a little bit about that before going into like specific path workings and stuff.
I think it's fascinating. And it's so detailed, and it's so mapped. And it's so amazing because I hear about the tunnels and the pathways and getting to know these different spheres, and they're all associated with planetary bodies. And it's like, I've done all that and I did it in such a different way. So to me, it's just so fascinating because it seems like we're all going to the same places eventually, if you're seeking and if you want to know what's going on. But we're all getting there different ways, and I think that's just fabulous. But this is such a complex study. It's very detailed and deep, and I bet it's helped a lot of people get to these places because it is a map. It's a true map of you can go here, go there, go there. This is where you want to go. I like how it talks too about places existing way above the astral. I totally know about that. It- it's mind-blowing, and that there's probably more underneath that we're not aware of. Totally agree with that. It makes so much sense to me, the concepts within the tree. It's just, it makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
It gives you the order of where to start, like in the map. So because sometimes if you
And
try to
there's like
go to the top sphere, then you might not get all the information. You'll just get a small fraction of what you need. Like you need to know the things before, like you need to learn things like breadcrumbs from different places and then as you do that, you just gradually progress. And like instead of just going from like a lower sphere to a higher sphere and not knowing what's going on, like if you gradually progress through the different spheres, then it may like you get so much more knowledge all at once when you get to that higher sphere, rather than just being like, what is this? What's going on here? Which is like how I started out, basically.
Yeah, and it's amazing too, because I hear you talking about the different spheres, and all these different spheres are different consciousness,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, that's a good
So
way
you're,
of putting it.
yeah, and then you're looking
Have
at it,
their own
okay, these are different layers of consciousness, and you're like, okay, you want to get beyond the mental construct, which is entering into the emotional. And then you get through the emotional, where do you go next? Cause and effect, causal body. So this
Yeah.
is the same thing for me as going through the different body systems of my aura. It's
Mhm.
like I can see all of the
Yeah.
same information in my body.
Yeah,
as
because
you're.
it's reflected all in the body.
Mhm.
Everything is in the body, as above, so below.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing because I've like accessed all those different points. I can conceptualize the tree because
Mhm.
of what I've experienced. But like you said, it was a funny thing too. You're like, you can't go there until you experience it.
Yeah.
Nothing real until you feel it. You can conceptualize so much, but until you actually go in and experience it and have an emotional response to it, the experience is a different layer of learning, different layer of programming. So it's completely different than just conceptualizing. Once you experience it, it's different. So it's a different level, again, different layer of consciousness. These are all consciousness levels. It's so
Yeah.
profound to me.
Yeah, and before I did the crossing of the veil that I mentioned before, from the
Mhm.
lunar sphere to the solar sphere, I basically thought everything was astral plane. Like I thought every time that you go into another world, it's just like you entering the astral plane and that's it. And there might be just different levels within the astral plane, which there are, but there's so many things beyond that too. And this opened
Yes.
up like a whole other worlds above the astral plane, like, and like you said, different levels of consciousness, and they're ruled by
Yes.
different things, like different elements could rule certain spheres. And
Yes.
I just
And
there's just so much to it.
it's so amazing because it's,
Fractals.
yes, and you can go there. Um, you only get through those conscious portals and tunnels, like you said, if your consciousness can match. So it seems to me, when you want to go to these higher places, you have to formulate higher mind questions.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's like, yeah.
yeah, that brings up another point that I wanted to get to. Like,
Mhm.
so the way that I go through these spheres, I do need my mind to be trained. So when I first make the intention that I say, like, I want to go, okay, like I completed this tunnel, like I know I've completed it. Then like I make the intention to go into the next one. And then I'll get a dream where I'm not conscious in the dream, but I remember it, and I get so many symbols within the dream of things that I need to do, things that I need to overcome. Sometimes the dreams can be frightening too, because I have to like reflect on them and see where I have to work before I complete the next tunnel. So like if I approach it that way and like write everything down within the dream and then read up on that next tunnel and what to expect, then things start clicking, like oh, this is exactly what this means. Like everything is personalized to your own soul and your own mind. but there's a lot of things that like they're common to it, so that you see it and then you could apply it to your own situation. Like, oh, this is exactly what I need to work on. This is why I saw this in that dream. This is what I need to do to overcome this particular drawback that's holding me back from experiencing this sphere fully at this particular time. Like, this is what I need to do to get to the other side. Since it is a tunnel, it connects one sphere to the next. Like, I'll start at one side that I already understand at this point and have gone through, but I need to get to the other side from this side. And there's two different energies connecting the two. That's why it's a tunnel. So you're getting corresponding
one's a
energy.
positive charge and one's a negative charge. Yeah.
In many, sometimes it's
They're
like and like, sometimes
total
positive, negative,
opposites of the
like the
same
solar
thing.
and the lunar. Yeah,
Yes.
that's like a perfect example of
Yes.
positive and negative. And that's why that one in particular is so powerful. Like the positive and negative charge, when they're completely opposites, when you could really unite those
That's
are
when
some
you're
of the most
whole.
powerful. And that's why there's a veil.
Yeah. That's when you're whole. That's the wholeness. That's the marriage, the divine wedding. That's the divine wedding. That's
Yeah.
what that is when you can stop separating and start unifying everything as a concept of oneness, and you can just see either end of the spectrum of a positive or negative charge. One's a receiving negative, one's positive sending. You just see it as what it is. It changes your whole perception of the world, of everything, because there's no more black and white, night and day, dark, hot and cold. It's all the same thing. It's just a different rate of vibration.
Yeah, exactly. It just is. And like you said, it's just different frequency, different consciousness, different vibration of the same
It's
thing.
all God happening, just at different rates of vibration, basically. If it's all the same
it's like if we think of our body, like we originated from stem cells that just differentiated in all different ways. So some cells differentiated into cells in our hands, some differentiated into our liver, and each thing just completes the whole. So it's like that. The tree of life is both within us as a microcosm and like beyond us, but is connecting all of us as the macrocosm, because we're a part of it. Like, and we can experience all of these different parts. And that's another big thing about Hermeticism too, because when you talk about Hermeticism, what is the goal there? The goal there is to go to the higher spiritual realms and bring them into Earth. So Hermeticism is kind of the opposite of like traditional Gnosticism, where the earth is a prison, the flesh is a prison. With Hermeticism, there is ignorance that keeps us low and in a lower state. But if we can purify our minds, then we can go to a higher state and bring the higher virtues down to earth with us. And this is a big part of going through these tunnels, because you learn all of these things and you can bring them down to earth. Like Robert was talking about before, you can actually use some of these things to make the world a better place. And that's another important thing about, like I said, the shell precedes the fruit, because you go through the deepest parts of the subconscious and of your own subconscious and into some of these worlds. You see like collective unconscious and just negative things that humanity has done and overall. And like you can use that as something to transmute. So you're the alchemist here, you're the magician. So you need to really take the higher principles and apply them to the lower and make the lower higher.
Yes. And this is how you truly learn unifying too, because people with this mindset, there's an automatic allowance. We allow it all because we understand it's all part of it. There's no, it's just an is, like you said, it is and is. And within that allowance, there's no division anymore. So you can find a way to make space for all of it, so it can operate in a base that it can work in its proper, appropriate, creative position. Because all of this, to some level, is necessary to keep the balance of the positive negative charge, because we are in a polarity diode system. It's the way it is. The moon, the sun, everything reflects that. It shows you positive, negative, north, south, south pole. It's a Torah field. So within this Torah, we are dealing with negatives and positives. But like you said, there is more to us that's beyond a negative charge, positive charge, polarity pole situation. This is an electric universe. That's why it needs a diode, a battery. That's why it has charges. this is all holographic and artificial. So there are worlds beyond and above this entire construct that are just completely nothing at all like this construct, which are actually where we're actually from. So yeah, it's big.
So I did a lot of work on this week, and I did believe it or not, I'm getting really good at the lucid dreaming on this.
Oh, good.
And I asked the question of, what's this all for? And I put that out there, and you're working your way up these levels, and as you can see on that map, it's a great map, that there's tunnels and like all the things you were saying, and I kept asking, why is this like this? And it goes back to, well, we just can't open the gates for everyone that wants, because everybody wants, they all want to go, everybody wants, and you have to learn, you have to do, you have to experience, you yourself there's a veil, and there's levels, like you were saying, there's levels, and you have to pass tests in order to get to these levels. And I kept saying, explain, and they're like, it's tests, it's and then I'm thinking like a video game, you have to pass each level to get to the next one, in a way, like you were talking about once before, Ryan, and how you had a battle list, and then the dragon gets there and he says, hey, you're not supposed to be here yet, or you're not supposed to be in here. I'm gonna kill you off, and you're gonna have to go back. And you're like, no, I'm not gonna go, I'm at this level, kind of thing. And each level and each pathway is there to sometimes confuse us. We may see the map on here and it looks real easy, and so does a blueprint on a wall.
If you're not ready,
but then I go out to the place where I'm looking at what the blueprint looks like, and it doesn't really look anything like what the blueprint is, when it's all together, because the blueprint's flat, it's 2D. Wow, that was a good one. Maybe I could do that back again. Oh, look, I got rid of the whole thing now. Anyway, but you went from 2D to 3 or 4D, and you're trying to make it to where you got to go. But you got to pass the test, you got to get through the veils, and as you work at it, you work your way up and around and up to the top. But then again, if you're not ready, it can work you back in a circle all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
And it's telling you, well, you're not a master, you got to do it again. And it's a maze. It's a maze. And as you can see, you can take a left path or a right path. You can go straight. And then as you get better, exactly, you learn, but you got to put in, and you can't just walk through the veil and say, I'm here to conquer, because that's the whole point. They don't want everybody to conquer.
Yeah.
They only want the best. They want the positives, and the people who can pass these tests, the people who are ready to accept these things.
Yeah, you have to do the work.
Yeah, and if you're not able to accept it, which a lot of people aren't, heck, people can't accept the world around them. How are you going to accept the other worlds, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Especially in this world, you see things like that a lot. The victim mindset, like people don't want to deal with this world and the problems, a lot of the problems that they create themselves. And we see this all the time in our world, where people create their own problems and then don't want to deal with it. So you can't do that at higher levels. It's already bad enough for creating problems in this world.
And I also think we should start a worldwide petition that the people that are going out into space and they want to go to Mars and all the space stuff that they want to do, that they're grounded until they clean up all the space junk that they left in our space right now, because that's a whole bunch. A whole bunch, and it's getting worse, and it's 70 years now of trash.
Yeah, we have trash in outer space, we have trash in the ocean.
That's what I'm saying. We got a problem that this is like, why is nobody ever, like, everybody's telling us like what to do with all these important things, and then they're making bad choices, and we've got tire dumps that catch on fire and don't ever stop burning, We've got nuclear waste still dumping into our ocean. We've got big issues here, but they're not talking about any of that.
No, yeah, they try to sweep it under the rug.
Right, right. And there were no, yeah. So we need to start paying attention to like what are some of our real serious issues and really starting to look at some
Find
cleanup.
solutions.
And I don't think that we should be allowed to go and mess up any other planets until they
Yeah,
fix
like we do.
what we did
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
I think we should be in quarantine for real.
Maybe we are. I mean, maybe we at some point or a time we did get someplace and they went, you messed your planet up, and
That's what
now
I'm. I don't think
you want to come
yeah,
here, and we're gonna
right.
knock you to your knees,
That's it.
and you straighten your ass up, or you can't come out to the outside world.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking until they figure that out. It's like you can't just ruin everything and then jump to a new one. No, you got to clean up your mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's just
reminds me of an African folk story from a Zulu shaman, Credo Mutwa, that died recently, but he actually said a story in one of his books that humans were actually from another planet originally, and they were just a problem. They destroyed the planet. So like the more evolved species on the planet sent them to Earth as basically as like punishment, but just to keep them away from destroying everything so that they could just like try to not destroy themselves first. And then if they were able to coexist, heal disease, live in harmony with themselves and with the other creatures of the planet, then they would and only then they would be welcome into the space family again.
and I totally believe that, but I got an argument because I don't think that humanity would do that of its own accord. If you had all the money in the world and you could do anything with it and that you could ever choose to do, would you choose to harm or heal?
Yeah.
I know you would. I would too. I think most people would never do this kind of stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
That's true. Yeah, most
what
people
the
are
hell
not.
is driving humanity to make these horrible decisions, or are they being forced or coerced or blackmailed or basically made to do things out of ignorance? Maybe telling them that you're doing this good thing and it ends up to be the end of us. But the people that invent it, they thought it was to save the world and they're going to use it to destroy it. This is what's going on. I don't think it has anything to do with us. So I might want to stand up for humanity on that, because most people I know, we love each other. We would never want to do those things. We wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would end war.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would, if we had the power, I think that we would do these things. I honestly do believe that we would do that.
Well,
I think there's more people that would do that than wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think most 99% of people are good people.
That's what I think.
It's just that 1%ers, or like right now, it's more or less the corporations that, for instance, if you work for a corporation of some sort, regardless of what it is, and you think, oh, well, the job I do ain't bad. But as a corporation of a whole, is that corporation doing something bad? But you contribute to it. We all contribute to it. You might not be the guy that's dumping the nuclear waste into the ocean, but maybe you're the guy who, puts it into the barrels, and you're thinking, well, because how many people say, oh, I'm recycling, Yeah. So they take that recycled product and they ship it to China, where they do something with it and they recycle it there and pollute more than they recycle. So, you're contributing. You're saying, I'm throwing my trash in the garbage like a good citizen, but then it goes over there and they dump it in the ocean.
And it's crazy. There's so many things that we could do to have safe things. And we have a huge plastic problem with, pollution. I guess since 1970, they've known how to compress plastic trash and it produces oil, because plastic's made from oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have an oil shortage anymore.
No,
we don't have to pull it out of the earth, and we get to clean up all of our trash too. That sounds to me like a win-win situation.
Yes, but we also have
whole islands of trash, basically plastic, floating in the ocean the size of Texas.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can tell you the answer though. I'll tell you the answer right now. It's
What?
about money. It's
Oh,
just
I
like
know. That's what I mean.
it's like water. It's like water.
Mhm.
California is literally out of water. Nevada, short on water. Water. We pay for bottles of water. And it's cheaper to ship that water from Fiji and sell it in the store where you are than it is to take the water out of the ocean, get rid of the salt, purify it, and put it in a bottle.
Yes.
So
Everything is a commodity nowadays.
it's a
Water.
commodity. So it's cheaper for that corporation to say, yeah, we're recycling, and load up a ship full of that plastic, dump it in the ocean because they're going to make money on it
Mhm.
and not have to recycle it. And because there's so much of it, it's like the oil, it comes out of the ground. Why should we make the plastic, which costs, thousands of dollars to make a barrel of oil, probably? Who knows? I don't know. Versus pumping it out where it comes out for almost free. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
it
So I
ain't
said, I
cost
think
effective.
there's so much with consciousness, and like I said, to truly go to these other places is a consciousness thing. So obviously our consciousness is getting ready to take us to other planets. And I think because of the consciousness and the issues and what we've done to the earth, if you leave Earth, the consciousness that's going to be taking you out of that, I'm pretty sure is going to be dealing with the karma of what it's done to the earth. So it doesn't seem to me like it's going to be a good destination.
Yeah, we'll just make the same mistake.
That's my gut feeling. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm thinking that is going to be ultimate. You are going to pay big time now. It's just my feeling. So yeah, I think we really need to work on healing our planet in a big way.
Right now we just need a total transformation of
Well-
how we view our own role in the planet, and our leaders are just awful in every way. Like that, some people
Yeah.
think that they can make changes on a political level. We're way beyond
Yeah,
that.
I
Like
think we
politics
are.
doesn't do anything. I mean, the United States basically has one political party. There's just small differences between the two parties, and you could say like one could be a lesser of two evils, and people disagree on this and like fight hardcore over like who's the lesser of two evils, but at the same time they're both evil, and we need something better. Like we need people that actually are smart, because our politicians are stupid. They might be good with money, they might be good at certain things, but
They're not good with
overall they
money.
just
We're
have
in the
no.
biggest economic problems we've ever had ever in
Yeah,
history.
so they're not good with that
They're
either.
not good with money,
Well,
They're
I
not
mean,
good with
unless the
anything.
plan is
So I don't.
to,
They
right,
just
close the
they're
world.
good at keeping power. That's what they're good at. They're good at keeping power.
They're good at
Do
work.
nothing with it.
They're
That
good
they're
at
good at. Yes.
they're good at the one thing we were talking about before the show, and that is the words. And it's just like I was telling before the show. We were talking about it. Famous people get to be powerful and famous for the words they speak. And if they say it over and over, it becomes truth in people's minds. They also tell you what you want to hear. And since it's what you want to hear, you start to believe it. And you say, yeah, that's my guy. He's speaking like he's thinking in my head. And he says it over and over and over enough that I believe him. Even if he does the total opposite thing, I still kind of believe in my heart that he's trying to do the right thing, even though he's doing something totally I didn't ask for.
Mhm.
But I support him for that.
Whether they know it or not, they're doing magic. That's
Yes,
what they're doing.
there you go. That's what we're talking about tonight. This
Mhm.
Kabbalistic magic, worlds within worlds. They're talking about the fictionary world to you people, and in real life, they're talking, they're doing something else. But we're living in that fictionary world. It's like this chart you just showed it, and how you follow the paths. And each path is a test, and it's like the same thing. But we're looking at it, they put the veil up there, they're putting out the magic, we're following the words, and then we get led down the wrong path, and we go, just like you said, Trina, oh my God, there's a place in the ocean that's as big as Texas with plastic. Why is this? How can this be? Who did this? Why? This didn't happen overnight.
No.
But but yeah, we let it continue.
Well, and then
And
nobody's ever addressing all the trash in space.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
a lot. I mean, a lot. This is, I mean, if something changed with our atmosphere and all that stuff came down at one time, you want to talk about apocalypse? Oh, baby, you're right there. You got it.
Be raining
The
down
entire
fireballs.
planet would be hit. The entire planet would be hit with
Yeah.
debris. The entire planet. Not one place, not one body of water, not one city, not one place would be safe. Not one.
Yeah,
No.
there's thousands of pieces up there.
They've been doing it for over 70 years.
Yeah.
Sputnik went up in 1957, I think.
Yeah. And who
Yeah.
knows about all those things they haven't told us about? I mean, you're talking about the ones we know of.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
And
that's what I
one of the
mean.
reasons
It's
why-
like, they're talking about expanding and going here and going there. I'd be like, no, kids, you're grounded. You're grounded until you can fix the stuff on your own planet before you get to go and mess up a new one. No,
Yeah.
you
And
should be
that's another
grounded.
reason why we need to we and people like us need to increase our power and influence. And there's
Absolutely.
one way that we could do it just by expanding our own consciousness, getting
Yeah.
out of the slave mentality that most people are in today's world,
Yes.
where people just stay on a level where they can't influence anything. They fight with each other and they don't make a difference.
And
Like
I
we need
think
to get above
too,
that and raise our own consciousness beyond that.
and I also think, Ryan, it's we need to get back more to like the ancient governance systems that were more done with councils. So no
Yeah.
one person ever holds such great power. It's divided among many, and those many are truly chosen because they're qualified and they're chosen by the people. And it really matters who they choose. And like I said, there used to be in the Constitution, before they changed it, that there was no titles of nobility allowed into the government offices. So if you were a title of nobility, you weren't ever allowed to be in that position. I think that's also another good thing to have installed.
Now the
Because
country's run by self-proclaimed nobles,
right,
elite.
the kings and queens and lawyers and stuff can't take over the
Yeah.
countries. It's just, it prevents that. The real people run the governments, the doctors, the lawyers, not the lawyers, the doctors, the nurses, the farmers, the school teachers, just the normal people, the firefighters, people from all different areas. And that's why they're chosen, because we need to work all different areas of our systems. So experts in those systems would be the ones helping guide and lead the communities with those issues, because they have knowledge, and all the people they work with, they would have a voice in it. You know what I mean? So I think that would be much more effective, because these monopolies are just destroying our planet with greed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell me about some of your pathways you went down, and how did you go through the veil?
Oh,
Maybe that will tell us a little bit about what we're going through here.
There are a couple of pathways I did want to read about, one of the lower pathways and one of the higher, but yeah, I did want to mention the veil. That took me 3 months. That was by far the longest pathway it took for me to get through. Usually it takes me anywhere from like a week to a month, but it took me 3 months to cross this veil. It's called the Veil of Parakeet, and it's the first of 3 veils that you encounter. The other 2 veils are higher up. I haven't gotten to that level yet, but regardless, this was very difficult. This was the one from lunar sphere to the solar sphere, and I needed a lot of help from my guides. And a lot of times, like from when I go through the tunnels, sometimes they aren't even present. They're like, you got this, basically. Like I might call on them and they'll be silent because they know that I should do this on my own, but I did need their help for some of these. Finally, the week before I crossed, I felt very inspired by my mother goddess Hecate, who really inspired me. Like I felt a lot of love from her, and this was like the final step in crossing away from the lunar consciousness into the solar consciousness. So she was really instrumental in bringing me up to that level so that I could develop my own solar consciousness based on her love. And love, of course, is from the heart. So my own love within my heart was able to merge with hers. And I think that's what really brought me over the edge to where I was able to finally cross after 3 months of failed efforts. Because it was pretty difficult. Like, I kept getting drawn back into the lunar sphere, and this was happening in all my path workings and in my dreams. Like, I just had to say, like, I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to evolve. And she
So
helped me.
what happened when you actually crossed it? What was the difference? How did you know you were there?
So, okay, so I had a series of dreams that told me that I was basically ready. And then when I did the crossing, I did it in ritual, like in the physical world. And after I was done with that, like, I knew that I understood like what I had gone through. Like, I wrote a bunch of stuff down. There wasn't any one thing in particular, like an aha moment, like some other places. Yeah, I basically just, so in the journey itself, in the ritual itself, I basically like felt myself separated from like the consciousness of the, like, I felt myself in the middle. And then like I just felt like a giant pulsating dragon that was in front of me that I had to merge with. And that's the way that I was able to cross it, like by merging my consciousness with this great like dragon of the earth and sea. So it was like more of a shamanic experience in this particular case, where I was able to just merge my consciousness, like not be separated, isolated like I felt before that. Like, I kind of felt like integrated, which is the best way to call it, integrated and whole. And like that brought in the whole consciousness of Tiferet, which is the heart center, the like the golden man. Like, this is, so that's how I knew that I crossed once I had that feeling, because it's more of like a feeling and emotion than it was any type of direct aha moment with knowledge.
So you went from your brain into your solar plexus. I see Tetheroth as the solar plexus. It's the gate of the sun. It's the solar plexus.
Yeah, exactly. So the Tiferet is this
Tiferet?
channel connects the two spheres, the lunar sphere with the solar sphere. It connects Yesod, which is the home of the thought forms, and the lunar, like lunar abominations, like Gamaliel. That's all part of the lunar sphere. So that was a starting point, and so that connects that with Tiferet, and Tiferet is like the Christians call it the Christ consciousness. Esoteric Christians, at least, call it the Christ consciousness because it is the heart center. So basically, I had to like merge with that particular aspect of Tiferet.
Interesting. You kept saying, I felt whole. I felt whole. It's like, yeah, because that's the gut intuition, the gut solar plexus.
Yeah, and it's kind of like
gut of God.
Yeah, so the letter of this pathway is S, Samek, and this is the represented by the Ouroboros. It's like, it's
So
kind of
I
like,
was just
like
saying,
an
I
eating
just saw
cat.
serpent. Yeah, I just literally saw the serpent in the Ouroboros.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why it came. I didn't really think about this at the time, but in the ritual, it came to me as a dragon, and that is the Ouroboros serpent. So going like the whole cyclical time. So basically, you want to transcend that, because you have like the lower time, and then you, in our world where everything happens in cycles and people are unaware of it, versus like when you can actually ride the dragon and actually understand what is going on, like harmonizing with the universe and understanding, like being okay with the different cycles and seeing how the cycles affect different aspects of life, and kind of like knowing this and being accepting of it, like understanding the lower worlds from this right in the center of the universal body. The center being the heart, the Tiferet.
You know what's so interesting? When you were saying that, I literally saw the Ouroboros, and I saw it as a portal, the way out of this construct.
Yeah.
And remember, I had that vision where I had to cut myself out of that snake.
Yeah.
And then
That was
they
your
told
way
me,
of crossing the veil.
yeah, and then they were like, my child, you now have been set free from the watery grave of which you slept. And I pulled a sleeping twin out of the serpent. And then it said, my child, you now have been set free from the bondage of the serpent. And that was when I
Yeah, so
realized
that sounds like your veil crossing that experience.
that's what I
Basically
think.
the
I was
same
like,
thing.
I think that was my veil crossing, was that
Yeah, it's
moment.
basically the same thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, that's, I was
Same
like,
thing, different
wow,
vision, but same
yeah,
type of
see,
vision.
I did it a different way, but same thing happened. I got the snake thing and the whole thing, and Dad never knew the Kabbala about. No.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's
Well,
amazing.
and I think you're right. I think each person has their own personal experience that they
Yeah.
can relate
Yeah, and
to.
whether you know it or
Yes.
not, whether you do it consciously or whether it happens, the universe
Yeah,
just initiates you sometimes.
yeah,
Yes.
Already.
Yeah.
because if it was all the same, it'd be like that map you showed us, and it'd be
Right.
like, hey, when you get here, you got to cut. Trina would be saying you got to cut yourself out of the serpent. Okay, the next guy would do the same thing, and the next guy would do the same
Right.
thing, but they
Right.
didn't make it easy. This is like a really difficult video game kind of thing. Now, I don't know
Right.
much about video games, but I can't play them worth a crap. But that's why I never play them. But the point is each one's tailored to you, and as you work up. Now, my question is, Ryan, next is you get to the next level. Is it going to get, the first levels, I would say, are going to be the hardest because you're inexperienced. As you go up, are they going to get easier, or are they going to keep being harder
It's
or more
more
difficult?
alien though. It's more unlike what you know. So in that way, it could be harder.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person. It's different. It's been kind of exciting actually. Like, yeah, it's totally different from the first ones. So like I can give you like some of my notes from one of the lower ones and then compare it to the last one that I did, to show you like how like the different feel of it, the different vibes. Like for example, like one of the earlier ones is that goes from Yesod to Naksak, and that's when I was able to get a pretty clear channeling. And that is the one that is ruled by the planet Uranus. So that's very Aquarian energies. It's represented by the Star Tarot card. And the ruling demon there is Tuflifu. So he was very helpful into explaining a lot of things. So I'm actually wearing his pendant right now. This is the pendant of Tuflifo, and this is also important because it is the pathway of the Tzaddik, which in Hebrew means the righteous. So you have to pass this pathway to be considered like one of the righteous ones. You have to pass this to know righteousness. So that's why this is an important pathway between Yesod and Netzach, because it is the pathway of righteousness if you can complete it. So let's see. So here's my notes. So this is what he told me in channeling when I was in ritual. So I was able to remember. I tried to write down like right afterwards to get like almost exactly like what he said, but I don't know if it's completely right, but it was pretty clear. So first you must release all notions of direction on a spiritual path. And this goes to what we talked about before, where we need to be like our own masters and like know that we're in control and we can go to different areas and not just try to escape. Like this was the main point of his speech, like the escapism of ascendancy. All right, so I'll continue. So first you must release all notions of direction on a spiritual path. There is only the path of self-mastery. It is the adept's choice whether to ascend, descend, move horizontally, or any which direction. It is the wild ride I speak of. Like your roller coasters, it can go in every direction, and it also loops, as time to the Sadiq is not linear, but cyclical. There is no one right way, no pure ascension that is often spoken about by those familiar with only the front side. There are only parallel paths, and there are doors through them which may take you wherever you choose to explore, regardless of their direction. The choice is up to you, to the one driving the chariot. The master of one's own fate does not need unidirectional directional ascension. Through this tunnel, you recognize and choose the doorways you wish to cross that will lead to greater mysteries yet to come. What is the soul's true image? Is it the objects around you? What do you see but inanimate objects in your space? So this is when I was at my altar. Are they a part of you? Are they the real you? No, they are like shades. However, the space around you is alive. It created all things, including the body you have and consider part of you, just as it created the inanimate objects that you see. Are they any less not you if you were created by the same source? All is a reflection of the soul. The soul's true image lies in energy that comes from the source, and which the Sadiq expresses through all faculties of the body, mind, and spirits. There are gateways throughout the spaces around you that will lead to any space and time in parallel with the one you find yourself concentrated within. What you discard as shades of the subconscious mind are as real as the inanimate objects in your physical plane. They do not appear real to you, but they are animated by your consciousness, which gives them a life. Take the excrementous matter that is deemed as useless by most and transform it into something that is salutary to the health of body and spirit. In your science, you can take a piece of skin from your body and then no longer call it a part of you. But yet you can direct energy into those skin cells and immortalize them into stem cells using physical means. The same concept which applies to physical alchemy applies to spiritual alchemy, whereby the shades we create and cast off are not to be discarded, but rather alchemized. It is the energy you put into transforming them that creates true sustenance for the soul, not to ascend necessarily, but to master all levels of conscious activity. You create your own vehicle through these transmutations, and then the vehicle of alchemized shades of your subconscious is used by your spirit to travel through these dimensions, through the doorways in space and time that exist beyond the realm of comprehension to those enamored with the physical plane. To truly become a Sadiq, you must master the human soul as the transformed vehicle by which you may pass through these doors as a realized human soul, what you may call the God soul of man. So that was the end of the transmission. So I thought that was pretty
beautiful.
deep. That's why
And that was one of the demons of Uranus?
Yeah, that was Suflifu, which is the ruler of the backside of the path. So that's the one that brings you into the path of righteousness, basically, into the sphere of Netzach.
Yes. And explain alchemy a little bit in case people are wondering, because you mentioned that quite a few times. I mean, I know what alchemy is, but I remember when I didn't know what it was, it confused me. I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, so alchemy is using your will and either will in spiritual alchemy or physical means to transform one thing to another. So you transform something in one state to a thing in another state, or the same thing in just different states. So you basically want to, like, if you have something that you don't want, that you don't like, you would take that, and rather than just throw it out, you would take that and turn it into something more perfect. So they talk about changing lead into gold. So you take lead, which nobody really can use, and you turn it into gold. And this is a spiritual analogy, in that you could take like the experiences of your life that are difficult and turn them into the gold of your own consciousness. Like you can learn from those experiences and become better people for it. And there's a lot of other symbols behind that too, but that's the gist of what alchemy is.
Saint Germain. A lot of people know about Saint Germain, the violet flame master. Saint Germain. He was known throughout history to receive some of the most precious jewels and gems from all the royal families all over the world, and he would alchemize them. And they would give him these precious stones, and they would be worth lots and lots of money, but they had a couple flaws. And they were like, Saint Germain, can you get rid of the flaws? And he was like, give it to me, I'll return it to you in about 30 days. And he would alchemize these stones, and he would bring them back flawless. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guy, like you were saying, you're taking a piece of your skin, well, that was once you, and then you turn it into stem cells, and then you can, you're alchemizing it into some cells, and then you're re-injecting it into yourself to heal yourself. How is that? Really? You're alchemizing, yeah,
And
it's
alchemy
crazy.
too, we got to understand it's as basic as digesting your food. You are
Yeah.
running alchemy 24/7 in your body. You're producing chemicals. You are walking
Your body's the
alchemy. Your
laboratory.
body is the most definitive proof of beautiful alchemy existing, is your body.
Your body is
Mhm.
the laboratory. It is the
Yeah.
temple.
And you alchemize too when you shift your emotion. That's alchemy.
Yeah.
It goes from one vibrational state to another, and that's alchemy. It's
Yeah.
all alchemy. So
Oh yeah,
alchemy is,
alchemy could be like
yeah.
if somebody's in a bad mood or like angry, and you change them into a good mood, or you do that within yourself. Like that's
And
alchemy in itself. Like when I worked in retail, like I would try to do that too. Like if somebody was in a bad mood, I would try to make them happy, and a lot of times it actually worked.
yes, and also too, when you're talking about you can heal trauma that way. You
Yeah.
literally alchemize it. You infuse it into a different area of the brain with a higher understanding, which expands it, doesn't take anything away. It actually adds more information to the experience, but you see it from a different perception, which brings it into a different neural
Yeah.
pathway set in the brain, which is like a different tunnel or a different sphere of consciousness.
A
And
lot
you
of it
just
is changing.
alchemy.
Changing
Yes.
your own mentality. And like I just put together two and two with this is a tunnel that connects Yesod, which I said before is the sphere of thought forms related to the physical world, and Netzach, which is the mental sphere. So this is more all like preparation for like mental well-being and like creating stuff like changing your mind state so you're in a more positive mind state. And I guess that's why you could say that, like one of the reasons why you could say like if you purify your mind, that's the first step to righteousness. And that's why this
Yeah.
path is a path of righteousness, and it's very mental, this sphere, and it's the right side of the tree, which is more dealing with the mental and like the masculine side.
Well, it's so profound because thoughts are vibration, words are vibration. All these things have a code, a signature, a specific signature. So when you can bring your mind into these states of higher consciousness, you instantly shift all the vibrational aspects of your aura and your light and your energy. That's how you can go anywhere you want, is just if you can
Mm,
vibrate similarly or enough to meet it at least halfway.
yeah.
You can reach
Just
it.
have to match your own consciousness with that of where you
Yeah, and
projecting
one of
yourself.
the highest vibrations that takes me into the most beautiful spheres of consciousness I've ever experienced is gratitude.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it is.
thank
That's
you,
true.
thank you. Just
Being
takes you
thankful.
to amazing places.
It's true. Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So
Yes.
I also want to talk about the last sphere that I went to, because that's one of the higher that is the highest sphere that I've been through, and it was a pretty trippy experience too, because this was the sphere of water, and water is like the womb, it's creation. So this was a pretty good one too, and I'd like to share that so I can. I wasn't able to channel anything here because it was kind of deep, and it's like starts with such an emotional level where you feel immersed with something. So like it's easier to channel things, I think, that are more mental, like the mental side of the tree. But this I was able to transform that, or transfer those feelings into words that kind of express like what I went through and what I learned from this tunnel. So I'll go on that now. So this is the sphere of Mem, which is the sphere of water. So there's three mother letters in Hebrew. There's A, Aleph, which is air or spirit, Mem, which is water, which I'm going to talk about, and SH, which is Shin, fire. So water we know is very feminine. This is creation itself. And like you would expect, this is on the left side of the tree. This is actually between the Samael or Hod and Golakab or Gabora. So that is Mercury and Mars. This is a sphere between, well, this is the tunnel between the sphere ruled by Mercury and the sphere ruled by Mars. And this is higher than even Tiferet, because this is the 5th sphere. Tiferet is the 6th sphere. So this was like the highest that I've been. Okay, so here we go. Tunnel 13 begins in the sphere of Samael, where the last remnants of the banal mind conditioned by material life are disintegrated. The ego is now clearly seen as a helper of the soul, a tool to navigate the realms below. The duality between lower ego and divine ego begins to fade away as an arbitrary conceptual innovation that no longer applies beyond the 4 lower spheres. Instead, the experiences that contribute to those banalities that unnecessarily consume the minds of those trapped within their mortal nature are seen as elusive, no longer operative beyond a certain point in soul evolution. These false lights are the erroneous thoughts that persistently flutter and occupy the minds of those imprisoned within their own self-created mortal structures who refuse to see the vast expanse beyond matter consciousness. Matter is simply the outermost crystallized level of a far deeper consciousness that pervades multiple dimensions. The physical plane is the level of the effects. As humans, it is our birthright to hedge through these worlds and affect our physical reality from the level of causation, which is by utilizing the pure water element. Even the vibration of the letter M has been known to forge an idea into existence and aligns the body with its finer essences. This is exemplified through the use of sacred mantras for activating spiritual centers within the body, like Om, Aum, Yam, and Lam. The initiate here is in the tunnel of Mem, plunges face first into the depths like the hanged man, eliminating all intrusive thoughts that plague the mind like locusts. These dark waters are the home of the deep ones, where Malkunofat, the ruling sentinel demon, emerges. Through the displacement of the banalities of the mind and transmutation of the dulled ego into higher awareness, golden spiritual honey forms around the mind and body of the adept. That which is of the lower mind dissolves in the water, while the honey provides a hydrophobic coating to protect the initiate, sealing him from interfering thoughts. The golden honeyed sorcerer is now like a blazing light at night, spelling doom for the many moths that fly too close to it. This is the end of banal existence. In the preceding tunnel of Nun, knowledge of alchemical creation of purified salt from dross matter was cultivated. In the tunnel of Mem, creation occurs at a level above matter. The initiate, aligned with his true will, following the period of immersion within the deep waters, learns to use the spiritual waters of creation to influence reality itself. A strong will imprints a desired reality directly into the spiritual waters of Mem, and that reality becomes etched into the physical plane by the force of will in conjunction with the pure water element that this tunnel contains and that the deep ones safeguard. No physical starting material is required in this tunnel. It is the first tunnel encountered that leads beyond Tiferet up to the ascending left-hand path of power, and simultaneously the descending foray into the world of creation, Bria. On the physical plane of evolution, the tunnel of the deep one signifies an earthly womb, a watery cradle where the most primitive multicellular life was able to evolve and grow larger and more mobile through the dynamic interplay between the first predators and prey species. This is exemplified by the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian explosion witnessed the birth and later the sacrifice of myriad species in the waters. The end result of this turbulent, unusual, and downright eldritch period of Earth's history were the events that forced the leap forward in evolution on Earth. Therefore, the frog, as a great aquatic leaper from the watery cradle of life onto the terrestrial plane, is a symbol of the physical culmination of the creative effects of this tunnel. So that's what I have there. And that goes with what we talked about before about influencing reality. Like, if more people can get to this level of creation, get to this sphere and stay in it and utilize these forces, then more people would be able to influence the reality as we know it. And then we'd be able to solve some of these horrible problems that we have destroying our own planet.
Yeah. A lot of beautiful information I saw years ago, and it's still out and about. People need to check it out. You can see it on YouTube now. It's a Thrive the Movie. Check that out.
What's
They
it
have
called?
a lot of It's called Thrive.
Mm.
Yeah, Thrive the movie, and you can watch the movie. And they have a way to sign up to their organization and receive information on a lot of neat ideas and a lot of brilliant concepts, and very much aware of some of the issues we've got on our planet. And with
Oh,
some going to work on making some solutions to do some things about it. So it's a good place to start. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Wow.
Together.
Wow. Wow. I think that's awesome because
Yeah.
together, as if we can get it, like I said, it's everybody's individual journey, but then once you get there, it's like moving up the classroom scale. You start at a kindergarten level and then you end up as a senior. But
Yeah.
if everybody just stayed at that kindergarten level, you just got a bunch of kindergartners.
Mm.
Yeah.
You need those seniors and stuff to show us that we can do it, and they run they move up to working in the world, running the world. Without
It's
them,
so funny. We've always been so compliant as to what the world is, and we've just gone with the flow because we didn't even know that there were any other options. Just our consciousness, knowing that we actually do input this world right there, that's a game changer. And a lot of
Yeah.
people starting to understand their thoughts affect their reality, and what we observe, what we look at is important, because
Mhm.
nothing can exist if we don't see it. So there's so much to this that we're starting to understand, and many are starting to understand this. So I really do think that there is a bifurcation of humanity happening, and we're going to see two different points of two different worlds coming from one world out of this whole beautiful situation we're in, and it's going to be a very cool thing to watch.
Mm. Yeah, I
Mhm.
totally agree.
Yeah.
But people have to wake up to this information, and I think they are. They're realizing that the system that they've been shown is a lie, and it keeps lying to them over and over. People are getting a little wise to that, and this is a time to recapture that what they're losing. And if you don't get them now, they'll just turn back to an old system that they were used to and go down that path again. And this is when you capture those people and show them that there is another system, there is another way. Maybe that's what all these secret societies and esoteric schools and stuff have been hiding and waiting for, is a day when they can come out into the open and teach and show people. And just like we're learning and we're starting to show people, and people are starting to say, I think you got a point there. I think that's a possibility. I never thought of that. But you know what? That just makes sense now. It all makes sense because, my beliefs have been kicked on and thrown to the side, and then they don't make any sense anymore. Nothing that I was ever taught really is true. I can't believe it.
What's so interesting?
Yeah.
We're talking
Right.
about dimensions and spheres of consciousness, and how all this stuff is such a conundrum, and like there's maps on how to get to other worlds, and there's all this stuff going on. And when I look at all of this, I look at it and I know it's very real, because I've gone through many of the trees of the Kabbala in my own body. And I can see how I can see that map inside me. And that was how I got to these places, was by going into my own inner self and traveling. And all of this is profound and it's amazing. But I heard this today and I was writing it down. What if the secret knowledge is naturally going to be false information? By getting you connected or linked to the astral planes, you, the seeker, may always get lost in the labyrinth of the mind. Get so lost that you could lose your mind and never discover your true power or purpose. The mental plane, or the 5D teachings, use frequencies. These frequencies create an astral barrier, a mental barrier, because this is the mental realm. This is just another way to keep you from the truth of what you are. We need to go higher. We need to get to the emotional and the causal realms of ourself. So I wrote that today. So it's so interesting that Ryan
Yeah,
basically
synchronicity.
just went through exactly kind of what I was processing today.
But you're right on with that, because like you said, it's that barrier to keep the people who don't belong out. The people who aren't willing to do the work or study or believe in it, just because it's there and they
And
see
to
it.
also keep people trapped in the labyrinth of the mental constructs of the third dimensional and fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional realms. If you want to go to a higher place, you have to get up into the higher consciousness, and that's definitely not going to be in astral realms.
Yes, because it's just like anything else. You don't get rich by falling down a hole and saying, "Look, I found a pot of gold." You have to go and look for it. You have to dig for it. It just doesn't. You don't fall in a pile of crap and pull out, money or gold or whatever. You pull out crap, and that's what they're trying to keep you from doing. It's just not going to show up in your lap, put it that way.
You got to
And
do the
that's,
work.
you gotta go looking for it. Yes, you got to do some sort of work to get you to that point, and that's what it's asking you to do. If you ask, and then you gotta, and like you said, then it's to get you lost, so that if you are looking for it, I'm going to give up, because you're really not into it. It's going to separate the chaff, through the screen, kind of
Well,
deal.
the
That's where your
astrals
guides
too.
come in.
Yeah, well, just like
Yeah.
the astrals, like Ryan, he's explained so much of it. It's tricky. There's a lot going on there, and it's all
Yeah.
based upon what's in your consciousness. That there's a blueprint of every thought, every experience, things you don't remember, things from past experiences. It's a labyrinth. It's a mental construct that you've
Yes.
taken potentially eons of time to construct.
Yes.
So yeah, that is a wild weave-even web, let me tell you. But seen a lot of people lose their mental mind state
I was
over
just gonna say
spending
that.
too much time in the astrals and playing with those realms. So like I
Yeah.
said, you got to use caution when you're doing these kinds of things, because they're real and they really do affect you as a human being. But
Yeah,
like
it's
I
easy
said,
to
the
become
safe
imbalanced.
Yeah, the safest thing I've ever done is to just, like Ryan says, it's through love and through compassion and empathy and unity and thank you. And those frequencies will always take you to a good destination.
Yeah.
So
And it
just,
helps when you have really good spirit guides that you can connect to, that you really trust with your whole heart. And like they're like your elders, basically. They see what you're going through and they'll help guide you, but you still have to do the work on your own. You still have to cross the paths on your own. But they
mhm.
could at least give you some, like, you're not alone, basically. Like, even if you do this totally on your own in the physical world, if you can connect with your spirit guides, then they can and will go out of their way to help you if they see that you're trying really hard to evolve and make yourself better.
You know how this is so about the power of vibration and the word is a sword, and a
Mhm.
sword is a powerful tool, and a sword also can protect you. You guys got to see what I got this week. Can I show you? I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ryan, I think this has been really great. It's really opened up my mind to a lot of stuff, besides turning me on to make me read that book, this week, and really getting into that. I think I want to thank you for that, because it's really helped out a lot.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, his books are amazing. Like, that's where I started, basically. Like, that was back
That's
in like 2010. I started doing those exercises. Oh, wow.
Not wild. It was gifted to me this week. A samurai sword.
Wow.
It's very big. I'm like, it's very big.
That's huge.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Isn't
that's
that
really cool.
amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gifted a sword. The world talks to me like this. It's very strange. And I've never been given a sword ever in my life until this week.
Wow.
I got a sword, guys.
Wow.
Some sword.
That is,
Right?
it's
That is
really
a
cool.
sword, right? That's what I said. I was like, wow. Oh my gosh. That's a real samurai sword.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's no, actually it's a samurai sword is different than a regular sword. That's a regular sword. The samurai sword is meant to be held with two hands, and then it's made differently. I read all about the difference between the sword and a sword. You know,
That's
where
definitely a big sword. I don't know.
it's a bigger sword. That's like a knight's sword.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah,
a, and
whatever it is.
a samurai sword, yeah, is like a katana thing. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway,
You know, is
there's a
that
difference.
these things are
They're sharp.
really sharp,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
really sharp.
That might be, but yeah, there's different types of swords. Um, but yeah, that's definitely a fighting sword, that's for sure.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, she was like, "This is for you." I was like,
Nice.
Wow. Where'd that
she
come from?
huh?
What?
Right. It was gifted to her, and she told me it was supposed to be gifted to me.
Wow.
I was like, "Oh wow. Wow, thank you. I've never been gifted a sword before. That was just really cool."
It
So I
is.
thought
It's
I'd
really
share
cool.
that. I thought it was powerful because, like, when you get your consciousness in a certain way, the universe shows you things and it aligns with you. And I don't know why I just got a sword.
There's a lot of symbolism on there. I see there's a red ruby, and there's a little
Yeah.
face, and there's a little there's
It's
a
like a it looks almost like a demon face, but it's kind of it looks almost like a nature spirit face, like
Mhm.
a tree face kind of. And then it's got wolves on each side coming out of the sides of it. So a wolf here and a wolf here.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
And then it did,
Very
and it's got like the horns of Isis or whatever. Look at that on the top.
oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess so too.
And it's got a red jewel,
Yep. Wow.
and then it's got like flames. And then see,
Yeah.
that's what it looks like. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
like
right in the
almost
center
like
of the
a
face.
ghost
Oh yeah.
or
Wolf.
like a spooky monster.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I was like, I didn't buy it. I didn't get to pick it. But wow,
It picked you.
it was a gift.
Yeah, but it picked you. Yeah.
Yeah, I
See,
guess so.
that's
You know what? Aries is root chakra, so red ruby that would make sense for Aries.
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yep. I'm like,
Wow.
it's Aries color. I'm an Aries. I'm like, interesting. Yeah, I don't know a lot
Wow.
about it, so, but I just thought that was interesting. I was like, and then I found this rock in Sedona when I was wanting guidance and wondering if I was protected. And I found this rock in Sedona, and it's got this little leaf on it. Can you see it right there?
Yeah. Yep. Pull it
Yeah.
back a little bit. Yeah.
It's a symbol of algaes, the ruin algaes.
Huh.
Yeah. So like I said, the whole when we do the spiritual stuff, things show up in your world that show you in symbology, in music, in coincidences, in synchronicities. And lately I've been getting a lot of really strange one being a sword. And then I had to separate two fighting bees this week, and it's never happened to me either. A black bee was trying to kill a honeybee.
Oh wow.
I never saw that before, ever in my life.
Hmm.
Huh.
Yeah,
That's
that's
so
Yeah,
cool.
exciting.
That is
interesting,
cool.
right?
That is cool. Well, as we wrap this up, this has been a great show. I want to thank you both for coming and all the people in the chat tonight. We had everybody, Dominic Spatito, Scratch, Nina the Mystic, who's got a big show tomorrow night. Don't forget to go sign up over there. She might want to post that in here again, Nina. I'll probably be over there. Check us out. Mary wins. She's going to be giving a lot of stuff away. It's going to be fun. Teresa D'Anton was in the house. She had to leave, right? But thank you for coming, Teresa. from Andromeda 7. Max, Remote Visions was in the house. He's getting ready for his show. So everybody go on over there, do a little more remote viewing. I did last time and it was great. I got their tail end. But Joanne Dance Gypsy, JoJo's always so fun. She finally stuck up for herself. So good for you. Big thumbs up there. You know, I tell you what, when you finally come in your own realization and realize that you're number one in your own world, there you go. Troy Wright was in the house. Scotty Boy, Big Al, who's on the road. Let's see, anybody else I missed here. Isby and Pamela Jean. Let's see. There's a lot of people that I'm probably missing. Joe Garbus and Melissa Holland. Yes, thank you all for coming. It's been a wonderful night. I think I said hi to everybody earlier, and Elderberry, who came in a little late, but all is good. Don't worry, Elderberry. You can go back and catch the first part because that was really interesting. And everything, but we will definitely have you back, Ryan, because this was so good. I learned a lot. I didn't even get through half of that book, but I'm reading hard. You know, so anyway, I got so much to learn. I wanted to get on thought forums before the end of this Christmas season too, because Christmas is all about these thought forums. You know, things we create in our minds and it becomes real is life. So
when a group of people believe it, it becomes an egregore. Then it has even power over people too, which is something you have to worry about too. Like you don't want to get caught in a negative egregore.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much to that. I mean, we could probably have a whole other show on that.
A whole show on that.
Oh man. But anyway, don't forget to come back next week. We're going to be giving away a bunch of stuff. I was going to do that this week, but we're a little bit running short on time. I want to give away some dream books, but we can give away next week. So don't forget to join us next week, same time, same place, where we're going to have tons of gifts to give away. Everything from the cards. I got them over here. We got several decks of Big Al's cards we're going to give away for Christmas presents. The regular cards, the Milky Way Soul Tribe cards, some dream books. We got some stuff from Delaney Pearl Jones that she made, that she has anyway. Even some of these magic wands that she gave me. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff, big giveaways. I think I still have some soap and stuff that we had from last year. Still good. But all in the grab bag for next week. Christmas giving, that's what I love. So don't forget to join me. I don't even know who's going to be on. Trina, I don't know if you're going to stop in, pop in. Ryan, you're always welcome here. But everybody who wants to come, if you want to be on next week and for just a little while, the whole show, whatever, but you know, pop in, say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays or Great New Year or something. Let me know. Send me an email. Thank you all. Remember, go out, most of all, be the frequency you want to receive, especially this time of year. I love you all, everybody. Peace, everyone.